So the quadratic formula, well, we don't need that for number one, so I'll write that later. So for number one, what can we do? What is the answer? How did you work through number one? What's the greatest common factor? 3x. And when you divided it by 3x, you should get option, or I don't know if it's in the same order, but 3x times x plus 6. Okay, words that mean solutions, so roots. So roots means that. Any other word down here that means x-intercepts or solutions? Zeros, x-intercepts. One more. Solutions. Those are the four words that mean the same thing. All four of those mean they're synonyms for each other. Okay, here's the quadratic formula. You definitely, again, want to make sure you have that copied down in your notes. So A is what? What is A? 3. So A is 3. B is the number in front of X, which is -5. And C is -7. So go ahead, take your calculators and find the discriminant. Now, when it asks you to find the discriminant, that's only b squared minus 4ac. So pick up your calculators and type that in. And when you do, you should get what? What did you get? -4 times A times C. Did you get 109? What does that mean? 2 real roots. So you should type 109 here, where it says type your answer. And that means you have 2 real roots. So in order to find your solution, take the square root of 109, and it says to 2 decimal places. So if you take the square root of 109, you should get 10.44. So your first solution is x equals the opposite of b, which is +5 plus 10.44. That's all over 2 times A, which is 3. Go ahead, type that in your calculator. And that is going to give you your 2 solutions. All right, so you can go ahead and finish that one. Let's look at number 6. Let's go ahead and factor question number 6. The first thing you want to do is take out your GCF, which is 2. So divide everything by 2. So the first factor that's going to go, it says put in your factor. So the first thing we're going to put in there is a 2. The next thing is we need to factor down this quadratic. So let's make our box. So I need two numbers that multiply to be 35 and add to 12. What are the two numbers that multiply to be 35 and add to 12? 5 and 7, good. Oops, I put a 7 and a 3, 5 and 7. All right, so that's going to factor out to x plus 5 and x plus 7. So notice it says no spaces. It says type the fully factored form in the blank. Make sure you include parentheses around your factors, but no extra spaces. So you need to type in a 2 and then a parentheses, x plus 7, and then a second parentheses, x plus 5. That is your answer to number 6. I'm not going to go through number 7, but you might want to put on your review sheet some things to help you remember transformations. That is a really big part of this unit or this semester. Remember your A. This is your formula for transformations of a quadratic. So A reflects it across the x-axis. If it's negative, the one thing that I noticed that students get mixed up a lot is when it stretches and when it compresses. So if the absolute value is greater than 1, it's going to stretch. But if the absolute value is a number between 0 and 1, that's when it compresses. So you ignore the fact that it's negative when you're looking at stretch and compress. You just look at the actual number. And if it's negative 0.2, it would reflect and compress. If it's negative 2, it's going to stretch and compress. H is going to move it left and right. But this is always opposite, so you have to remember if it says a negative 3, the H is positive 3. And K moves it up and down. So you can go ahead and look at number 7 and match the transformations. I'm going to come back to number 8. Let's look at number 9. So I gave you a handout where it talked about the special case of factoring when it's the difference of two squares. It was way earlier in the semester. So what multiplies to be 36x squared? So what's the square root of 36? 6. So you would type in a 6x in both. And then what multiplies to be 25? 5. And the one thing you have to remember when it's this pattern is that one is a plus and one is a minus. This happens if it's perfect squares. So that's definitely something you probably want to have on your note sheet for this unit. Let's look at question number 10. The vertex is the highest point of the parabola. So for this example, that would be right here. And the highest point is at 2, 4. So it's positive 2, positive 4. So remember for the equation that H is opposite, so you would look for the one that has a negative 2, positive 4. So the answer would be this third choice. The roots is where it crosses the x-axis, and it crosses it at 0 and 4, so that would be your answer to number 12. So roots and x-intercepts, that's where it crosses the x-axis. So in factor form, if you have a root at +4, the factor would be -4. So because it's upside down, we need one that starts with a negative. And this would be my solution there. Definitely make sure you have in your notes that the axis of symmetry of an equation for a parabola is x equals h. And in this example, the vertex is here at +2. So your equation would be x equals 2 for number 14. So we just need to pick one of these equations to put it in standard form or general form, and it doesn't matter which one we do, but I do think it's a little easier to go from factor form to general form. So let's use this one here. Make a box and multiply those two factors together. So take a minute and multiply those together. So when you combine your like terms, your equation would be y equals x squared minus 4x minus 5. So what is A, B, and C? What is A? Now that it's in this format, you know A, B, and C. So what would A equal? 1. So you would type a 1 in this first box. What is B? -4. Don't put the X, just put -4. And then what is C? -5. Now your y-intercept, this is something else you might want to have in your notes, is that your y-intercept is always at 0C. So if C is -5, your y-intercept would be at 0, -5. Now, if we did vertex form, if we use this equation, we would still get the same answer, but it would be a little bit, a couple more steps. All right, and then number 16, convert this to vertex form. So we're going to make our box, and remember C goes on the outside. So I'm going to go through the steps of how to do vertex form. X squared would go here, and then you take this number, which is B, and you cut that in half. So what is half of -10x? -5x. Okay, so does anybody remember what the number would be to complete the square? What is the number that would go here? +25. So you multiply these together and you get +25, but you have to take that away. So this becomes y equals x minus 5 squared. And then what do you get here? What is 21 minus, ooh, sorry, it'll come back. But what is 21 minus 25? 4. Okay, so what is 21 minus 25? Negative 4. So when you look at this equation, what is A, H, and K? What do you think your A value would be? Remember, A is the number in front of the parentheses. 1. So A is 1. What's H? No, not negative 5. Positive 5. And what's K? Negative 4. Make sure you have in your notes that the parent table for y equals x squared, because we're not going to have time to go back and do that graph, but let's talk about graphing real quick. So just remember, when you graph the parent table for y equals x squared, this is your parent table that you want to have in your notes. And then it's always h plus x, y times a plus k. For a quadratic, your domain is all real numbers. Your range is either k to infinity if a is positive, or is negative infinity to k if a is negative. So that is a summary of 2 units. And again, this is recorded and it will be on Canvas, so you can review it again and take notes over it to use on your final exam.